Okay, so it looks like I am live. Hi, everyone. Dr. Joyce Faraj-Ardura here. I'm trying something new, and I want to see if I can share my screen and at the same time stream it here, but also on YouTube. So let's see how this is going to work. If you can see me live, go ahead and comment, say hi, and I can see if you're there. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen if I can find it. Give me 1 minute. Oops. Oh, hi, someone's there. Wonderful. So let me go ahead and just share my screen with that other screen over there. Okay, full screen mode. Then I have StreamYard here. And I'm going to go ahead and present. Okay, there we go. Yes, it's working. Wonderful. So I just want to double check that I can see myself. There it is. Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Joyce Faraj-Ardura. Welcome. I'm excited you're here. I am a nutrition counseling coach, and I'm also an assistant professor of nutrition and dietetics. And I founded the Nutrition Counseling Academy, and I'm also the host of the Nutrition Coaching and Counseling Facebook community. So if you're watching this, you're likely in the community, and this was an event. I do mini trainings every other week. At least I'm trying to stick to a bi-weekly type of schedule. So for today's mini training, I'm going to talk about resistance and when it can show up in a nutrition counseling session, and a couple of strategies as to what we should be looking out for and what we can do if this were to show up with your clients. Feel free to post any questions if you have any. I'd love to chat. Otherwise, enjoy the presentation. So let's get started. So I'm going to go into understanding a little bit of the science behind this. Okay, there we go. So what is resistance? And I really like to use the quotations here because it is a term that we're trying to move away from, and yet we tend to come back to this term because it denotes what happens when a client is not, on board with the change process. When a client is being resistant to change or is being non-adherent or non-compliant, all these different terms. But in reality, these terms are almost indicating that there's something inherently wrong with the client, and that's not true. Being resistant to change is just a normal part of the change process, and that's something that we're going to dive deeper into today. So if we look at the conventional definitions of resistance dating back to the 1950s, it is initially conceptualized as solely a client problem. So we tended to think this client's resistant to treatment. Then we fast forward to 1980s. Resistant refers to the client's unwillingness to change, which I think is what many of us tend to think of as well when we think of resistance, or maybe unwilling or not ready to change. Then fast forward to the 1990s, and we have any behavior that indicates covert or overt opposition to the clinician, the counseling process, or the clinician's agenda. In this case, I'm using clinician synonymously with dietitian because it implies the practitioner/client-patient relationship. So much of this is coming from psychotherapy research, but it still applies to what we do because everything that we do as dietitians is meant to help someone change their behaviors to prevent, chronic conditions. So we have to take a look at these conventional definitions. And the more we view resistance as a client problem, the less we empower ourselves to be able to do something. It's so easy for us to say, oh, the client's resistant, there's nothing I can do. And the truth cannot be farther from that. So I'm going to say that in motivational interviewing, we're no longer using rolling with resistance. That used to be a very common term. We're no longer using that because the term resistant, as defining the client, is almost inherently saying that there's something wrong, something psychopathological with the client, and that's not true. Resistance is a normal part of the behavior change process. So let me move on to the next slide here. Then we're moving into more alternative perspectives. So for this one, we have different definitions now. Resistance is a reflection of the developmental level of your client. Okay, perfectly fine. There's nothing inherently right or wrong. It's just, stating a fact. The client is where the client is, period. The social interaction theory perspective says that resistance occurs as a result of, quote unquote, negative interpersonal dynamic between the clinician and the client. So now we're getting at a different level of depth here. It's indicating that there's nothing inherently wrong with the client, but that this resistance comes upon because of the dynamics between the clinician, aka the dietitian, and the client. So resistance is defined as a psychological force aroused in the client that restrains the client's acceptance of influence, such as the dietitian's suggestions. And resistance is going to be generated by the way the suggestion is stated and by characteristics of the counselor stating it. So now we're getting a little bit deeper and more complex. We're peeling some layers, figuring out that resistance is not inherently lying within the client, but it comes upon because of how we interact with our clients. So this leads to the next slide. This means that the alternative perspectives are going to view the resistance. This view of resistance, it forces the clinicians to remain aware of what we may be doing that actually promotes resistance. The benefit of this perspective is that changing your interaction style results in changing what has been deemed resistance. And this is why this is important. This perspective actually empowers us as the clinicians, practitioners, dietitians. This means that we can do something about this. And it's not going to be like us throwing our hands up in the air. There's nothing we can do. The client is resistant. No, there's a lot we can do to be able to prevent this resistance from coming out in a session. And that's the beauty of this alternative definition. So then how do we redefine this resistance? So we have to deal with resistance through a solution-focused lens. For example, a solution-focused approach, such as motivational interviewing, never labels the client as resistant. And like I mentioned, we no longer use the rolling with resistance, term, but now we're saying we dance with discord because it takes two to tango. And we have to be able to meet the client where they're at. And we have to adjust maybe our pace, our speed, and our attitude when we're with our clients to figure out what it is that the client is wanting. And that's where the partnership comes in motivational interviewing, the collaboration. So all client responses are simply viewed as information regarding how clients perceive and proceed with change. That means we should not be taking resistance personally. There's nothing inherently wrong with the client. And we should just be taking this as more information. The more information we gather, the better able we are to modify or adapt our approach to counseling with our clients so that we are on the same page with them. So, dealing with resistance through a solution-focused lens. In this case, what if we were to replace resistance with the concept of cooperation? Clients are not resistant. They are cooperating in ways that are not always understood by most clinicians. So resistance and cooperation can be seen as two sides of one same coin. That means that the differences are a matter of perspective. So do we react in a manner that views their behavior as resistant, or do we respond in a manner that implies cooperation? That is what ends up empowering us, because how we respond when we're noticing a little bit of resistance on our client's side is how we're going to respond. And that's something that's fully within our control. We cannot control what our clients do or say, but we can control how we respond to be able to tame the situation. So I'm going to go over some ways to avoid this resistance and then what our role is in this with our clients. So when does resistance occur? I have a good list here, and this is from Mitchell's book, Effective Techniques for Dealing with Highly Resistant Clients. Again, all from psychotherapy, but I've basically changed all the clinicians to RDs because it all applies. So when does resistance occur? When the clinician fails to recognize that all clients are ambivalent about change. No matter what stage of change, there's going to be some ambivalence. There's more ambivalence if they're in the obviously pre-contemplation, contemplation, but even when they move into preparation, action, there's always going to be a little bit of ambivalence. So that's totally normal. Number 2, when the clinician wants more for clients than clients want for themselves. We should not be working harder than our clients. We should care, obviously. There's this saying that goes, clients will know how much, clients don't care how much we know until they know how much we care. We should definitely care, but we shouldn't care more than our clients. So there's a fine line there. Number 3, resistance is the result of the dietitian being too intent on their own agenda. One of our hardest challenges as dietitians is to let go of our own agenda and let the client be the driver. Put them in the driver's seat. You're there to guide and to support. You're not there to tell them what to do. Number 4, resistance equals RD's expectations. That means that we should not have high expectations, right? But we should meet our clients where they're at. Number 5, resistance happens when the dietitian tries to solve the client's problems. How heavy of a weight is it for us to be wanting to solve all of our clients' problems, or thinking that we are going to be fixing everything that's wrong? That's not on us. Again, we're there to provide our expertise, we're there to support, we're there to guide, but we are not there to fix anyone's problems. The responsibility for behavior change is going to lie within our clients, not within us. Resistance happens when the dietitian is going too fast. There's a big aspect of counseling. Knowing when the client is ready, what stage of change they're at, how to appropriately figure out intervention to move forward, and also to move at their pace, not our pace. If we're moving too quickly, that's immediately going to get our clients to be more resistant to change. If we're moving too slowly, it can be a good thing, but we want to be moving at the same pace. So we want to be assessing the situation throughout the session to figure out where our clients are at. Resistance can occur when the clinician doesn't know what to do. Resistance is anything the client does that makes the therapist feel inadequate. So that's an interesting one. That means that we can be labeling our client as resistant when we're not feeling good about the work that we're doing. And lastly, resistance occurs when the dietitian fails to cooperate with the client. So this goes back to the spirit of motivational interviewing. The very first foundation for the spirit of MI is going to be partnership, collaboration. There are 2 experts in the room, not just the dietitian, but also the client. So knowing how to cooperate effectively with the client is going to be key to minimize resistance. So whenever you feel that the client is being resistant, that means that you, as a dietitian, must also be resisting your client's position. So this is not only on them, it's also on you. So from this perspective, you are being resistant. Think about that for a second. So when we consider it in this context, resistant is actually a clinician problem. How funny is that? But it makes sense because clients are not going to resist what they want. And we need to be working out of a place of compassion and a place of having our clients, well-being as the top priority, having their interest at the forefront. So then there's a nice little quiz here. Has resistance gotten the best of you? Do you feel you are arguing and fighting with your clients? Are you trying to convince your clients? Are your clients saying yes, but every time you open your mouth or provide a suggestion? You're sitting on the edge of your chair, anxious, wanting to do all the work while your client is feeling perfectly relaxed. You're working harder than your clients. You care and worry more than your clients about their problems. You are dreading sessions before they begin. You dread the sessions after they end. You feel stressed and drained in an unhealthy manner about your nutrition counseling sessions, and you're feeling burnt out. Those are just some signs that resistance has gotten the best of us. That means that we need to shift the way we operate in our nutrition counseling sessions to be able to tackle this. The reality of things is that we cannot change others. We cannot change our clients. There's many factors contributing to whether our clients are going to change or not. And we have little to no control over most of these. So there's a lot of influence from outside factors that can influence up to 90 or 87% of probability of client changing their behavior. But we tend to think that 1 hour per week, if we're lucky, or 1 hour for every 2 weeks is going to really influence how the client spends the other 167 or 337 hours outside of session. The reality is our locus of control is limited to how we respond and what we say and how we create a partnership with our clients, how we collaborate with them, how we use communication strategies and counseling strategies to help them move closer towards behavior change and how to support their behavior change. But you cannot change your clients. You can only change how you interact with clients in attempts to maximize the potential for change. We can influence our clients' perspective on change. We can influence their readiness for change. We can certainly influence whether they change or not, but we cannot change them. And that is one of the biggest issues that we have. Let's see what else I have here. So then what is our role in our nutrition counseling sessions? If we redefine our role in resistance, that means that resistance is going to be a mismatch between the dietitian's mode of influence and the client's current willingness to accept that influence. That means that we need to adapt to where our clients are at. We should not be imposing our suggestions or our goals, but we should be working together with them. Some common errors that we tend to make is are your clients not making progress? The first question to ask is progress towards what? Failure to establish a mutually agreed upon objective is going to be the number one mistake that's going to lead to a client not making progress, because people do not resist what they want. It's going to be up to us to dig into what they truly desire. If they say they want to do X, Y, or Z, okay, let's use those open-ended questions, those MI skills to be able to dig a little bit deeper into what it is that they actually want. Why is that important to them? And we're getting into their big why. What motivates them? So we truly know what they really, really want and help them envision their desired future self. So if we start by seeking what the client wants, we build a foundation for a mutually agreed upon goal. And if there's ever any miscommunication, just clarify with your client. What do you mean by this? I want to make sure we're on the same page. Can you please clarify? If you have a shared meaning for the goals and how they want to get there, it'll be easier for us to help them and support them. Another common error that we make is the dietitian imposing goals on clients without regard for their desires. And this is like a salesperson who is trying to sell products that people do not want. So think about that. We've all experienced that pushy salesperson trying to get to us to buy something we don't really need or desire. So when we create goals with our clients' input, without our clients' input, we become that salesperson. pushing our goals on our clients. So dietitians are trying to sell the client on a particular treatment plan. But in order to prevent this, then that means that we have to be able to work together to figure out what the client wants and what's the best way for them to get there. So instead of trying to convince them to buy our treatment plan, we should strive to be more in customer service mode, where we aid in finding what they really desire. It's going to be less stressful for everyone, more compassionate, and it's also going to have the client's best interest in mind, and it's going to be more ethical. So our role, we may not fully understand the client or why they're responding in such manner with resistance. That means that our job is to get curious, like genuinely curious, and figure out what might be going on instead of just deeming someone as resistance. So when we have clients that are all over the place, having issues identifying the problem and therefore the solution and the goal, it might be because the solution might be a little bit scary for them. And the scarier the solution is, the more likely the client will dance around the real problem. So the client might be a little bit unfocused, scattered, inconsistent, contradictory even, and likely the discussed problem is not the actual problem. It's going to be up to us to get genuinely curious to figure out what might truly be going on with your client. So we have to find the underlying theme and grab some insights from that and try to have a conversation with our clients, letting them know that we're hearing them, we're trying to understand where they're coming from, and we're trying to support them in the best way possible. Let them know that they are the driver. They are the ones deciding if they want to make a change or not. You're just there to help guide them through that process in a very supportive manner. I think this is the last one. I have two more. Our role is we're not the only experts in the room. There are two experts in the room. So if you start taking the expert role, the more you provide the client something definite to resist against, or the more of an expert you come off as, the more likely they are to resist against anything that you say. The more of an expert you become, the less psychological freedom the client has to explore possibilities on their own, therefore losing a sense of freedom, and that can lead to resistance. We really want to show our expertise. We want to let the client know that we know our stuff. We've studied this a lot, but we have to make sure we're allowing the client to brainstorm, that we're allowing the client to think about their own solutions and what might be having them remain stuck and how they can get unstuck in this change process, because only they know themselves that well. They are the experts of their own lives. They have their own lived experiences, and we can be providing all the suggestions we want, and none of them might work for them. So we have to know what questions to ask and how to ask them to really get them to think about how much they truly know about themselves, because most often they might not have gotten these questions asked of them through other healthcare providers. So we have to allow them the space and the time to be able to answer. And the last one, here's where that quote is. People do not care how much you know until they know how much you care. So we have to focus on empathy. This is the best defense against resistance. People do not change because of logic. If that were the case, no one would be smoking. Everybody would be working out and meeting all the guidelines, right? But people do not change because of logic. They change because of how they feel. People only change when they have an emotionally compelling reason to change. So we have to tap into that. So I hope you found this helpful. If you want to learn more about resistance and practice strategies to be able to tackle resistance, to discuss some cases where you might have some clients that are exhibiting some resistance and how to go about approaching them, I do have the next program, and it's not called this. It's called the Elevated Nutrition Counseling Blueprint, and that's going to be starting the first week of May. It is a bunch of pre-recorded modules, so you can watch them on demand. Many of them are going to be focusing on resistance as well, motivational interviewing, the foundations of counseling, and how to tackle various challenging, nutrition counseling session situations. And you're also going to get access to a workbook And this is going to be a 4-week program. That means you're going to have 4 live coaching calls with me where we can practice. We can have some Q&A, some discussions, some, case consults, but you're going to have lifetime access to all of the modules. The other thing is that if you register before April 21st, you are also going to get 2 bonuses. One, the early bird price is $497, which is $150 off the regular price. And 2, actually 3 bonuses. So that's one. The other bonus is you're going to be able to join a body image coaching call with a body image expert, coach for dietitians, on April 26th, if you're interested, but only if you jump on this earlier. And you're also going to get a one-to-one counseling coaching call with me. So that's a bonus if anyone wants to enroll before April 21st. And if you want more free trainings, I also have another free training coming up on April 17th. This one is going to provide you with 1 CEU. Well, and the program also provides you with CEUs. I just haven't determined how many. The current program is a 12-week program that I have running, and that's 12 CEUs. But this is going to be 4 weeks, 4 live calls, and all the modules you're going to have access to for life. This one is a free CEU that's going to be happening on Monday, April 17th at 3 p.m. On Zoom. So there's a registration link for that. I'm going to post in the group. And this is about strategies to keep your nutrition counseling sessions within the allotted time frame. This is something that you chose as a topic when I polled everyone in the group. So I hope you find this useful. And if you attend this one live, you're going to get 1 free CEU. So I hope you found this useful. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and see if anyone has any questions. See if I can stop sharing. Okay. Am I still sharing? I'm not. Okay. Am I still sharing? Thank you all for joining me. Feel free to post any questions under the comments for this video if you have any. I'd be happy to answer them. And I hope to see you in the next Facebook Live as well as on the free webinar. Take care. And I hope to see you in the next Facebook Live as well as on